surprising.
Yeah.
So let me talk about this degree, this preeminent degree that is a lost degree, which many people have, and a lot of us have not experienced but would benefit from. First of all, it involves odd numbers. Well, this degree, and it's an apprentice degree, is based partially on alchemy. Well, I know that's pre-scientific, but a lot of symbolism is pre-scientific. And there are 4 elements in alchemy: air, earth, fire, and water. But that's an even number. And in this degree, everything is still in odd numbers. So it happens, this is getting a little ahead of us, in the lodge room itself, and I'm not going to say much more about the lodge room itself, the candidate is tested by not 4, but 3 elements of alchemy. He experienced air, fire, and water. And if we had time, or if you were to think about this, you could visualize, okay, in the lodge room itself, the candidate has to experience water without drowning. He has to experience fire without being burned or suffering. And he has to somehow experience air in a way that we can't imagine. He has to be able to be up in the air, supported without physical support. And so that leaves us one element unused. So the 4th element also comprises an odd number, which is 1. So the element earth is experienced in the candidate's mother's womb in a prenatal state. And a few lodges, I think even in Portland there's one, have such a room. I don't know if they make full use of it. It's called a chamber of reflection. So for those, have you heard of the chamber of reflection?
Yes.
Have you ever heard it discussed much?
Kitten Lodge has a chamber of reflection, and they use it quite a bit when they have new candidates come in, and they'll take them to the chamber of reflection and let them sit and think about things. And they have it decorated with a skull and a few other odds and ends.
They are using this same element, whether they are using a portion of this degree. They are using a portion of this Andrew Hammer degree. They're not using the total, but somehow they've acquired this one, which is possibly the most important part. But we'll describe this some more now. This chamber of reflection, regardless of where you find it, whether it's in this degree that Hammer says is so important and is missing, maybe even lost, it has certain characteristics, and it's been interpreted in more than one way. And I don't think people agree on how it should be interpreted. I'll give you my interpretation, which I think would be the orthodox interpretation. I'll digress.
Okay.
Have you heard of tarot cards?
Oh yeah, tarot cards. Yeah.
Tarot cards are used, normally we think of it as being used for fortune telling. But there are other uses. It's used for just reflecting on life and on circumstances. And a lot of people use tarot cards just to look at and to think about things. There are, to my knowledge, there might be at least 100 different versions of tarot card decks. One by Arthur Edward Waite, who was a Mason, and he has developed the one that's possibly the best. I've got samples of his in my book.
Okay.
But his is not considered purely a Masonic tarot deck. There are two tarot decks I'm aware of. The more recent one claims to present the Chamber of Reflection. So maybe it would be an interpretation of what a Chamber of Reflection should look like. But I would say the answer is no, because in that tarot deck, the vision of the Chamber of Reflection is open to the air, open to the sky, and you look out over the candidate into the distant sky. So it's open outward. So it's not in a closed space like a prenatal area. I would reject that interpretation. Obviously, this one tarot author uses this approach.
Yeah.
I don't think it fits what's intended by this degree. Then the second interpretation that you sometimes you see this fairly often. I think Albert Pike might have used it, or at least some people in the Scottish Rite have used it. They have referred to the Chamber of Reflection as a place of philosophical death. At Kenton Lodge, maybe that's their interpretation. In any event, since it's representing one element, which is earth, this chamber should be below ground level. It's in the earth. It should have an earthen floor, stone walls, if possible, a stone ceiling, and it definitely should be below ground level.
Yeah.
And yes, it could be an area of philosophical death. So if the person is experiencing death in some way before going into the lodge. However, this more recent author that I've encountered is the one I like. And this interpretation is the Chamber of Reflection is a prenatal area, and that the person in there has never experienced anything else ever before.
That's an interesting philosophy, point of view. I never really thought of it that way.
This interpretation says, there they are, they've never been anyplace else. It's like a baby.
Yeah.
It's never been anyplace else.
That's interesting.
And then and as you might surmise, the candidate is eventually removed from a chamber of reflection and then goes into the lodge room for what you might think is the real action. So this is the interpretation I have. And there are all sorts of things that go with this in this chamber of reflection, and you mentioned some of them, and you can find catalogs. I think I've got one or two pictures in my book that at least partially portray this, and I think I've got remarks a few places on the things that could be there. There could be a writing tablet to write out your thoughts. There could be a copy of the Bible. There could be a glass of drinking water. There could be a glass of stale water. There could be a jug of wine. There could be broken working tools in there. And I think if you were to look at the literature of Masonry relating to this, there's a large number of things that could be in there. And this could vary somewhat from country to country. But this chamber of reflection we do find in New Orleans, in the Romance languages, in Scandinavia, in Germany, all those places,
Yeah.
with different names.
Yeah. But it's been a pleasure having you, Brother Norm. Brother Norm Peterson from the Scottish Rite, and a well-written author, well-known author, and
I'm also a past commander and the commander in the York Rite.
but thank you for being here today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.